It's clear that the Greek situation is a very serious one, and we're very much concerned. It's a serious one for the question of macroeconomic stability of Greece, and even more than Greece. It's also a very serious question for the Greek people.
The head of the IMF, Managing Director Dominique Strauss-Kahn there. The IMF right now in talks with Athens, also the EU, to outline a 3-year economic policy plan for Greece. Let's get to our guest. Jim Rogers is back with us, chairman at Rogers Holdings here at our Asia headquarters and up in Hong Kong. Kirby Daly is back as well, senior strategist at the New Edge Group. Good morning to the both of you, gents. Jim, good to see you again. Welcome back.
Delighted to be here, Mark.
What do you make of this mess over in Greece?
Well, Greece is bankrupt. It looks like they're finally figuring it out for themselves that they're bankrupt. Yeah. And in my view, they should let them go bankrupt and clean up the system. No, Martin, let me explain. If Greece went bankrupt, it would clean up the system. The euro would go down for a while. But then, in my view, the euro would be a very strong currency because people would say, okay, they're going to have a hard, strong currency, and Europe is not going to put up with this. Otherwise, what's going to happen when the next country, and the next country, and the next country?
Was it the Eurozone project, Jim, or was it a case about being selective?
No, I would let everybody who's bankrupt go bankrupt.
All right.
I mean, that's the way the world's supposed to work.
Ouch, ouch. Kurt, what do you think?
I mean, it's hard to disagree with that based on the success ratio of bailouts we've seen in the past. In the fact that when you look at the history, look at this time it's different by Reinhardt and Rogoff. There have been defaults throughout history in countries that we're talking about today numerous times. This is a natural part of the cycle. And trying to stave off the type of default when you get past the point of no return will just put off the inevitable and probably make the end result even worse. And the fact that we're just hearing the director of the IMF come out with these statements today when we were saying these things back in January and February shows you that they haven't made much progress. It's been all rhetoric along the way. There's no easy solution.
This is an economy, just to use the Greek context, that is still trundling along on life support. I mean, whether the patient is actually DOA and being kept on artificial life support, anybody's guess at this point. But there are still the doomsayers out there who insist that there are going to be more sovereign issues. I mean, they're just going to pop up and crop up, but we've staved it off.
They're not going away. We've staved it off. That's right. We're putting off the inevitable. These things will not go away. We can't go away. We have to work through the debt. And the reason that they're trying to put it off is just what Jim alluded to. We have behind that, as we all know, Spain, Portugal, Italy, and then Ireland still has problems to deal with. But mostly the first one probably coming up next is Spain. They're slightly different dynamics. These are very real. Europe cannot afford to take care of all these problems. That's why they're not pushing the issue. They're buying time.
Guys, you seem to have a similar negative view on the Eurozone. Jim, I've got to ask you, we're looking at the euro this morning dropping to a fresh one-year low to the dollar. Do you think this is pricing in all the bad news, or do you think there's more downside to come?
Well, there's certainly more downside to come in the news because we have, as Kirby was just saying, we certainly have several other countries in Europe alone which are technically bankrupt and essentially are bankrupt. So there's more bad news to come. I happen to own the euro. It's not doing me any good, as you know, because I'm hoping that they're going to paper. I'm not hoping, but I expect them to paper it over. Eventually, that'll cause the euro to rally for a while. But look, the way to solve this debt problem is not with more debt. The idea that you would solve a problem of too much debt and too much consumption with more debt and more consumption, I mean, that defies comprehension. You cannot believe that grown-ups would stand there and say something like that, but that's why they're politicians.
That's what's happening, huh?
Kirby, if the situation in the Eurozone is going to get worse before it gets better, then how would you characterize the systemic risk and the threat of contagion for the rest of the world?
Contagion is one issue. The idea that the Eurozone is going to be under this type of pressure economically dealing with these situations for not quarters, but years to come means we cannot expect a rebound in consumption from there, which means that this elusive rebound in manufacturing we expect to drive jobs in the U.S. is probably going to be tougher to come by. The world depends for in a large part on strong consumption out of Europe as well, not only the U.S. That is unlikely to manifest itself in the current situation. Contagion between governments is not as much of a risk. Every situation will be evaluated by the bond markets on its own merits. The problem is bond markets are going to get more and more skeptical, and with the ratings agencies stepping up to the plate and finally doing their jobs, these issues are likely to come to the forefront again and again. It's less contagion, more like we realize that these problems aren't going away.
Yeah,
and it's very trite to say
Yeah.
you can't treat a debt problem with debt, but it's true. It's not trite.
Fair enough. Okay, which sort of leads to the ultimate point here. Your old friend George Soros at an economist conference just not too long ago joined a growing number of people saying that, look, credit crisis, what we've just been through, you think that's a crisis? Wait till you see what happens when this whole sovereign debt crisis blows
Of course,
up.
Kirby, it's not just the Eurozone. We've got the United States of America, which is basically bankrupt. We've got the UK, which is bankrupt. These are huge economies.
Contribute to a double dip. Sorry,
Well, I don't know how you define double dip. I do know that the next recession, whenever it comes, is going to be much worse because, I mean, America cannot quintuple its debt again. The UK cannot sextuple its debt again. I mean, there's just no more slack in the system. So when we have the next recession, and look, we've had recessions every 4 to 6 years since the beginning of time. We're going to have more by 2012 or who knows when, if not before. Then it's going to be much, much, much worse. They've shot their wad. There's nothing left.
Okay, get back to talk a lot more with Jim Rogers from Rogers Holdings. Also, Kirby Daly from New Edge Group. Questions for either or both of them, email us. You know what to do at squawk@cnbcasia.com.